Stefan is here to talk to us about suppliers and with this solution that encompasses all of the Power Platform.
Okay, I will talk about our solution for supplier relationship management we built on the Microsoft Power Platform. I work as a solution architect at Skrukton in the Netherlands. I'm a co-founder of a Dutch user group called Power Addicts. We serve users for Dynamics 365 customer engagement and Power Platform, and also occasional blogger and speaker at community events. And I was awarded 2019 as Microsoft Business Solution MVP. In 2019, I was awarded as an MVP. And that was also the year I did this presentation on several events. But the strange thing was that at the moment we were still building and testing the solution. So I was speaking about it, about the concept, but yeah, we were not live yet with the solution. But now we are. So I'm not only going to talk about the solution itself, but also the experience with it, and talk about do some kind of evaluation. So this is the agenda for my session. First, what is supplier relationship management? Then a little bit of history of it within our company. What process are we going to support with the solution, and then the solution itself. Then I'm also going to demo it. And then after the demo, there's time for, if there's still time left, some evaluation and what's on our roadmap for further development. So I copied this from the Wikipedia site. So this is a definition of supplier relationship management from 2019. I checked whether it was still accurate, but they have a new one, but it's too big to fit on the sheet. So I kept with this one, but yeah, I'm not going to read it aloud, so please read it yourself. I will give you a moment. So for us as a company, yeah, supplier relationship management, it's all about getting the best mix of price, quality, cooperation level, and delivery reliability. Now, why is that important for us as a company? Skrukton is a contract company working in the civil and rail infrastructure. The part of the technology and buildings that was sold recently to another company. So the infographics of our communication departments weren't updated yet. So our core business is now rail systems and civil infrastructure. But most of the time, these kind of projects are complex, multidisciplinary, and a good relationship with suppliers is really important. So if we took at the history of our supplier relationship management at Skrukton, check this. Okay. So we had a lot of different business units, and they all were their own budget holders. So they had their own buyers, so they had their own suppliers. And in the end, we ended up with like 14,000 different suppliers. And the way we exchange information with the suppliers, it's all by sending documents over the mail, a lot of unstructured data in maybe a spreadsheet or email. And the thing is, yeah, if we are main contractor on a project, in the end, we are accountable if something goes wrong. So if it turns out that a subcontractor is not compliant with regulations or maybe illegal workmen or whatever, in the end, we're responsible and we get fined. So there's a really important need to get in control. Well, that's a kind of challenge if you're talking about 14,000 different suppliers. Yeah, so it's all about risk management. So for us, our management team, make clear, well, we have to get in control of these suppliers. And there was also development of centralization of the purchasing itself. So not decentralization with all the different business units in different parts of our country. No, our headquarters has a supply chain department, and there was the purchasing to be centralized. Now, how can you get in control? You can't say about 40,000 supplies, well, we don't, there's no risk. So, and you have to, how can you decide that whether there's a risk or not? You can't base it on a gut feeling. You have to base that on data. So there was a smart colleague working at the department of supply chain department, who started his own supplier management database. So he started the Microsoft Access, well-known tool to make your own application, and started to build his own data model and algorithm to be able to do supplier management. Now he got in touch with IT, and we offered him help. So we got him also an SQL database. But the problem of his application was the input was all done by hand. So, and he also wanted to let his colleagues use Microsoft Access, and they were not really keen on using that. So he had this really smart tool, but lack of automated input. So no direct input from the suppliers or from colleagues or whatever. Now, some years ago, we started with an ERP implementation, and the question was whether this sophisticated kind of supplier relationship management was offered in our ERP solution. So we started with Dynamics Nav, the Navision, and our Microsoft partner told us, well, what you want, it's a kind of ambitious, it's too ambitious for us. So there's a gap in our solution. So okay, so we knew at that moment we can't use our new ERP system for that. So then we looked at several SaaS applications, software as a source solution offers from third parties, but the department itself were all not really satisfied about that. And then, so I waited for my turn. I explained it to them. Well, we were already using Dynamics 365 as a CRM system, but it's a platform you can build your own applications on. And since 2018, it's been integrated with Power Apps. So you have a really full, rich, and powerful platform to build your own application. So I told them, well, we can build our own supplier management tool. And that's what happens. So about what kind of process are we talking about? If you talk about supplier relationship management, you're talking about, for instance, a supplier onboarding process. The first step is screening. So you want to know what kind of activities these suppliers have. So you can match it with a specific kind of risk profile. You must be sure that they are compliant. Compliance is important. So if they have to meet certain requirements and regulations, okay, they have to send in, show the proof or something like that. And they have to agree with our general purchase conditions. And then, because once a supplier is onboarded, there's a recurring process of validation. Are the requirements they gave us still valid? Certain certificates or declarations are valid until a certain date. So maybe they should give us a new update about these requirements. And there's also an internal process called assessment. So project managers, they have to, it's also part of supplier management, and it's also part of our auditing process. We must do assessment of our suppliers. So based on specific projects they do with us, we have to let project managers answer some questions. Now, what kind of specifications do we expect from this solution we're going to build? First, we want to offer a registration form, on a public accessible portal. And then once the supplier has submitted the registration, we should be able to, it's like a lead to opportunity, but in this case, it's a qualification process of the supplier. So do we want to do business with them? And then we start this, this validation process. So once they are qualified, so we want to start the onboarding process, they should get an invite for access to a portal and based on Azure AD B2B. And once they log in to the secured area of the portal, they start with the screening form. So what kind of activities do they do? And based on that, we can determine what requirements they have to upload and register, like certificates or declarations from IRS or something like that, tax office. And then we want to offer them so-called statements and like the general purchase condition or some other agreements they should fill out or agree with. So if in the end the supplier can be approved if all the lights are on green, and then we want to sync this account to our ERP system and create a company in our Business Central database. And then from that company, a supplier can be created as well. And like I told before, we also want to give project managers the opportunity to do assessments of the supplier. Now, so I will show you. Yeah.
We have two questions that came up in the chat on that slide. How much does the AAD B2B cost? And how many contacts do you allow to access the portal? Separate questions.
Yeah,
so I can repeat them.
Azure AD B2B, it's like free. Well, so you have two different licensing schemes. The old one is based on the amount of internal license you have for Azure AD. There's with the ratio 1:5. So for one internal user, you can give access to 5 external users, guest users. But there's now also a possibility. It's called external identities. It's part of Azure AD, and you can connect it with an Azure subscription, and then you get a free tier of 50,000 monthly active users. So if you stay under 50,000 unique users per month that are active, then it's a free tier, so it doesn't cost you a thing. And it can even also include multi-factor authentication. So that's the answer of the first one. And the second one was how many contacts?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have a limit. We don't have a limit. So the amount of contacts, it's depending on the amount of accounts we create. So the amount of suppliers we host in our system, and maybe it's one contact person or maybe 2 or 3. So we don't have a limit on that. Was there a specific reason to ask this question, or? I don't know who asked this question.
It was from Fernando, and he said, because you provide access to the sales contact, the manager, and someone else, ?
From the supplier, you mean? That's possible. So we we can check who is authorized to sign through the information from the Chamber of Commerce. So at least one of those people who are registered with the Chamber of Commerce should be able to access the portal. But they also, if they want to delegate the work or the actions, they can do that. So first we give access to an authorized person, and then we can also apply some delegation. So that's more or less the setup. Is that okay?
I think so. Thank you.
Okay. I will continue. Yeah. So, like I told you before, this colleague of mine working at the supply chain department started with his own Access database and application. And then IT got involved, and yeah, the data was put on an SQL Server database. But like I said, well, it was a standalone application, so no connection to the outside world, no input from website or email or web service or whatever. So part of our solution is Dataverse, Microsoft Dataverse, and then use a Power Apps portal. We use the partner portal template. I will come to that later in the evaluation. So the portal is a way to give access to external users, and then also a model-driven app for the back office. So yeah, it's like a model-driven app for the supply chain department, and then they can do the process from that app. Now, to get those both worlds connected, we use Power Automate Flow and a data gateway to get access to the on-premise SQL database, and we sync some data from the SQL database to Dataverse. So there are like shadow tables in Dataverse. I will come back to do that in the evaluation as well in the roadmap, but that's now how it was set up. There's an integration. We're using also the Dataverse SharePoint integration. So, but the way the document locations and the structure in SharePoint is done in a customized way. So all from Power Automate Flow. So we create like a library per supplier. So it's like a supplier file dossier, and every supplier gets its own library. And also we have an integration with Exchange Online of Office 365, Outlook, so we are able to send invitations or things like that. And then the third type of app we also use, a Canvas app that's used for the supplier assessments we offer to our project managers. So this is a picture of the solution architecture. Now, what kind of Power Platform components going to use? Now, I think I mentioned them, most of them. Dataverse, partner portal for self-service by suppliers. At that time, we also were interested in using the sales partner portal functionality. That was the reason why we chose the partner portal template. So we had like two different target audiences, so like partners in a sales process and suppliers, but they each had their own landing zone in the site, in the portal. Now, a model-driven app for the supply chain department is the back office app, Canvas app for the supply assessment, the Dataverse workflows, and Power Automate flows. And also using the on-premise data gateway to get access to the SQL database, Exchange integration, and the Dataverse SharePoint integration. Here's some statistics. It's not really interesting, but we started with 13 Dataverse workflows, Power Automate flows, 99, and data gateway. So what does a supply onboarding process look like? Well, I looked for a picture on the internet, so this is one of them, and you will see that you have these certain steps. We also want to bring in our own business process flow. So like a request for a new supplier, an approve, send an invite, supplier registration, due diligence, and so on. So we translated this process steps, these stages, to a business process flow, a standard functionality in Dataverse. So we have these steps, have a qualified supplier. So we have to decide whether we're interested to do to start onboarding process. Do they offer something interesting for our portfolio? Now, then identify account. We have a web service connection with the trade register of our Chamber of Commerce, and we get validated data like address and all the numbers and the VAT number, things like that. We can import in the account form. So it's validated data. It's important. Then we can invite the contact, and then we start to create a screening based on templates. And once that's available in the portal, the supplier can log in and start with the screening. And based on the submitted screening data, the SQL database algorithm, as might call it, give back what kind of requirements and statements the supplier also has to deliver or fill out. Now, if we follow all these steps, the last part is the supplier approval. And once the supplier is approved, it can be synced to our ERP system. Now I'm going to show you a demo. So let me see. I'm logged in as an, so I'm using a demo tenant, and I'm logged in as William Contoso. So I have here my mailbox, and partners at .skrukton.com. We invite suppliers to go there, and they can read the information, the introduction, and then something about selection procedure. So this is a Power Apps portal with the styling of Skrukton. We offer it in 2 languages. So mainly we do business with Dutch suppliers, but we also have international suppliers. We also have international offices. So maybe in the future we're going to add more languages to that. There's also interest from our Sweden office interest also in this solution. So maybe in the future. So now then they can start with the first step, become a supplier. So they can fill out a form. It's still the public accessible form. I've refilled it already with some information. So on the left you see the contact details. So the name, job title, email, and email is important because that's where we're going to send the invite. And we're also going to create a guest user based on this email. And on the right hand side you see the company details like name and address and Chamber of Commerce number, things like that. So you have to agree with our privacy policy. You can, there's a link to our corporate website. And then I can submit it. Oh. Okay. Now the submission is complete, and now you will be contacted at a later time. Now I'm going to switch to the model-driven app. That's so this is our production. Our test environment is under construction, so I was not able to use that for the demo. So I'm using this as our live. Now we have created a supply chain, Skrukton supply chain model-driven app, and here down in the corner you see the different entities of tables for the supply management process. So there's this registration table option, and then we're going to see that the submission that I've done in the portal is listed here. So it was created some minutes ago. Now, and I see the information that was entered in the form, and you also see that I'm in the first stage of the business process flow, so the qualify stage. Now, what we do in what our colleagues do is that they assign this this registration to another team, and the category buyers, and they they're going to decide whether this is an interesting supplier to do business with or not, whether we're going to start onboarding process or not. So they can give here the commands, can enter, fill out the comments. Well, okay. So it's like it's a bit similar like lead qualification. So you can either deactivate it or disqualify it, or we can go to the next stage. Now, it's also possible that this supply is already available as an account here in the system. This is the Dataverse environment we also use for our sales CRM system. So, and yeah, some companies are partners or customers or suppliers. They can have different roles for us. So there's also a possibility to that account already exists. So you can check the procedure is you're going to look for the account name or maybe the account number. So and that will have influence on the next step and the automation. But okay, in this stage we're going to say, well, now we're going to create a new account. So then we're using field mapping and a quick create form, and now say okay, it's a supplier. Yeah. Then we have a real-time workflow that it's creating an account and also the contact person. So it's like the plugin that's doing the magic for the lead qualification, that an account and a contact is and an opportunity is created. It's like a similar thing, but done based on real-time workflows. So now you see that I've switched automatically. I've switched to this identify stage, and now we're in an account form. So you see an account has been created, like the post is saying. And oh, it's really that late. And the information is listed here. Now, what we do next is we have a connection. We can search in our the trade register of our Chamber of Commerce. That's a web service. So, but it's only for Dutch companies. So I can't demo that. But that is that's part of the identify process procedure. We're going to enrich the account information with validated data from that web service. So, and then the account is ready, is identified, and then we're going to go to the next stage. And in the background, also this contact was created and also connected to this business process flow instance. So we can select William Contoso, and then we switch to the next stage, invite. And now we're in the contact form. So I'm going to say that English is the preferred language. Now, we have here created an extra field, and you can check whether there has been a guest user created already or not. So sometimes, like I told you, sometimes we also do business with companies that are customers, and maybe we give them access to SharePoint and they already have a guest user account. No, that's already listed then here. But in this case, this person doesn't have a B2B account, a guest user account. So we have a custom button. We use the Ribbon Workbench for that. And with that, we're going to trigger a workflow. So it's a Dataverse workflow. It's like a customization of the existing invite workflow that you get with the partner portal functionality. Now, what this will create an invitation that's part of the the onboarding process to get access to the portal. But it will also trigger a flow, and we created a custom connector that we use to create a guest user in our Azure AD. So I'm going to refresh this. Let me see. Yeah. So there has been sent an email to the email address of the demo user. Dear contact, you can activate this. Blah, blah. So now switch back to William Contoso's identity, and then you see that I've received this invitation email. Now I'm going to click this to redeem mine. I'm redeeming two things, so it's like the guest user access. That's part of the Microsoft process, and then the next step is to redeem the invitation of the portal. So you see this is standard functionality. When you're invited to an organization as guest user, you have to accept. And then we have built a custom flow that's going to redirect us to the. Let's see if that works. I'm going to also talk about this in the evaluation. Okay, so yeah, I've been redirected to the original URL that I created, and you see that the invitation code is already pasted. That's a well-known trick. It's already pasted an invitation code if you use this code as a parameter in the URL. I can. So it's redeemed. Now I'm able to log in, and now I'm accessing the portal based on my guest user access. So now I have to agree with the code of conduct, and then continue. And then you see that now I'm logged in the secured area, and I can take a look at my profile. And yeah, these are the things that were registered on the portal and also in the contact row record. Now, so there's no action if I go to screening. That's the first step. There's no form record available. So I have to go back to the model-driven app and go to the next stage. And then I can click, and I can start a workflow from the. It's like an action step, and this will create a clone of a template. So we have a form, we have a record with questions, and we create a clone and associate it with the account of the supplier. So if I go to switch to the tab supply chain, you see that the screening has been created. If I click it, you will see that we use choice fields as questions. So we created a lot of fields, and we created a choice, global choice option set with all these questions, either in the Dutch language or translated to English, or the other way around. And we can add those questions. And in the portal, only the questions that are filled out are shown and the empty ones not. So it gives us a flexibility to add new questions if that's necessary for screening purposes. How does that look like in the portal? So I'm going to switch back. I'm going to refresh. Sync always takes a bit time. Let's see if something went wrong. Yeah, so it's active. It's connected to the supplier. Take some time. I don't know if that makes a difference, but
while we wait for that to sync, there were a few questions that came in.
yeah.
I think some of these came in right before the demo, but
Okay.
the question was that I see you had a service account logged in. Is that the best practice that you use?
What do you mean with a service account logged in?
I think
Where?
this must have been right before your demo on one of your screenshots. Maybe we can come back to that one.
Okay.
Fernando's providing some more information.
Okay.
Also, the sync account to the ERP step, there must have been several controls that you had to overcome during that process. Is that correct?
Sync it to the ERP system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have an. I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly, but we have an on-premise installation of Business Central, and yeah, you can interface with Business Central through web services. And we had to find out how that works and how that can be accessible from the cloud. If you use Power Automate Flow, it's a cloud application. So what we were able to access the web service from the Business Central application through the data gateway as well. So we're not forced to expose the web service to the internet. Okay. So from security's perspective, it's a good thing that we're able to access it through the data gateway. And yeah, there are two ways of using web service. So there's the old, the long existing way of publishing like a page. So if you have a specific page in the UI maybe you fill a specific page you use to enter a new company, you can also publish that page as a web service. So you can have the same input through the web service. So that's the trick I use. So we've published a customized page based on the standard page of added or new company, and then we can call Power Automate Flow. We can call the web service from Power Automate Flow and then do a patch, and in that way create a new record in the Business Central database and get the company number back.
Okay, perfect. I think the question about the service account, I think the owner was set to the supply chain management, not to a user. So
that we do that on purpose, because this system, this is the same Dataverse environment that's also used for CRM, for a sales process. And you can imagine that, people that are part of the sales process should be able to create accounts. But we call that unmanaged accounts. But once they are a supplier, or if we're becoming a supplier, we make it a managed account, and that means that the owner will be this team, and this owner is connected to a business unit higher in the hierarchy. So once this is a managed account, the salespeople can only read it, but can't modify it anymore. So that's the reason why the ownership is based on a team. So that's the.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a few more questions. You want them now?
Yeah. Okay. I'm still puzzled why the screening doesn't work, but
it's just you forgot your sacrifice to the demo gods this morning, perhaps.
Yeah. Sometimes.
When they're submitting that initial request form, are they also supplying legal documents within that form?
No, that's the next step. So that should be. I'm going to trick this. So So I'm not sure why it's not available in the portal. It might be a sync problem, but because data is synced from Dataverse to the portal. It's a different environment. But these kind of these questions are shown in the portal as well, and then you can say either yes or no. So this will give us a profile and also a risk profile of the supplier. So we'll say yes to all the questions, and based on this, these answers and the risk profile we matched it with, then we can ask for the specific requirements and documents. So that's the next step. So before we had like a really long Word document with all kind of requirements, but if you send it to a supplier, they didn't know what they should give us back and what not. Some things are not relevant for if you don't do that specific kind of activity. So therefore we want to make it interactive and use the context, and the context is based on these answers to these questions. And sure if it's going to work. Yep.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that might answer the last question, which was around if you validate their answers or statements, which seems like yes, and it determines what other questions they get and kind of next steps on the process.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, I'm not sure if this is going to work. Okay. So I think it was a sync problem. Let me see screening. So you see in this way, this screening form is shown. And then it's like interactive. So if you don't supply material, you can go skip it and go to the next one. I pre-filled it already from the backend. So, but normally it's standard default is on no. And let me see if I can still submit it. Sure if that's going to work. Let me see. Back to the supplier. I'm not sure if I'm going to do the other screening as well, because I think I've submitted already, and maybe that interferes with the normal process. So I'm going to do this again. So like I told you, these questions are choices from a global choice set, and so we can, if the screening form has to be extended, we can add a new question or choice option to the form, and then that gives us a flexibility to move with developments of regulation or things like that. Okay. I will say yes to all the questions because that will give us a result that we have to meet different requirements. Because I think the workflow is checking whether the screening form was submitted through the portal. I'm not sure if okay. So now if we're going back to the backend, then I've here also so you see here that they're already we call them questionnaires. It's like a bundle of statements, so we can I will show you. This is the PDF of our general purchase conditions, and what we've done, we took all these took it apart in separate texts, and they can approve or reject the specific part. So when they submit the form in the portal, we know what specifics they agree and what they don't agree, so we can have a discussion about that. And some conditions are not relevant for the specific companies. So, okay, that's not relevant, so we can skip that. So instead of suppliers saying before, well, we don't agree with your general purchase conditions, we have to find out, but what part exactly? And now they can do that in the portal. So you see that this is generated. And I'm going back to the portal. Now, if I go back to the dashboard, you'll see that based on the screening and the risk profile, these are the following requirements. So this is like a safety certificate. This is some like a form, a declaration of the tax office. Now, the specific Dutch requirements and regulations, but I can go now. I have access to there were web roles added to the account or contact. So now these other two parts open up for the user, and we can go to the requirements. Now you see here a list of what we should offer, and we can add a requirement, and that's a combination of a form and also an upload of one or more attachments. So it's like a VCA certificate. I can say, okay, it's valid from to 24, and I can say, well, there's a long list of requirements, so I can say select this, and then it's like also VCA. Yeah, maybe this one. Okay, VCA certificate. So it's like the metadata, and now I can also upload one or more files. So and I'll submit it. Now you see that it's submitted, but it can't be approved automatically, because we have to check if what was submitted makes sense. You can also can enter rubbish and can also upload rubbish. So if you go back to the model-driven app, you see that, okay, there's now a requirement uploaded, and we can open that, and it's got its own process. And you see that from the portal, you can recognize this by this prefix star web star, that the uploaded files are also available. But what we've done, let me see. So we can look at the attachment, and then we can decide, okay, it's correct. So we're going to say we approve it, and then we're going to finish it. And what happens next is there's a flow, Power Automate flow, that will save the attachments to this library in SharePoint. It's like a document repository for our supplier information. And oh, wrong button. Yeah, so there was a link added, and if we go open the link, we're going to go to the SharePoint site, and you see that for this supplier, this requirement document has been uploaded. Now, if I go back to the portal, if I update my screen, you will see that I think the checked on is not yet synced. But what you do see is that here was here's now less text available. So there are one less requirement requested. So in this way, they can work their way through this list and add their requirements. And the supply people can validate and approve them or not. So that's one part of the validation. The other part is statements. So we these create a double because I've submitted the form twice. So that's why the things are double. So algemene bepalingen. It's not really multilingual yet. The screening format is, but the statements not yet. That's the next step. So you see that, and there's some JavaScript wizard, magic on the page. You see that it looks a bit like the way it's the general purchase condition document as PDF is laid out. So you have here all the statements, and you can agree with that. So it's more like definitions. So there's nothing to say yes or no to. So I can submit that. But these are the general conditions. If I go to that, then you'll see that I have an option to say yes or no. So I can also say, well, okay, I'm going to answer yes to everything, but I don't agree with this one. So instead of saying yes or no to the full general purchase condition, we can see what specific part they don't agree with. So they can submit this. We go back to the portal. Oh, one moment. Yeah. Not yet updated. Will take some time. Okay, back to the model-driven app and the supply, and you see that these two questionnaires or bundle statements were submitted through the portal and by the supplier contact person William Contoso on this date and time. So in this way, they can work through the questionnaires, and they can and then we follow we go to the next stages. So we can are all the so this is like the notification text that's also displayed on the portal. So these requirements are still needed, but once they're updated, submitted, they will be available here, and the notification text will be empty. So they met all their requirements, and if all the questionnaires are submitted, then we have the complete information. And now, if they agree to our standard conditions, that we can do business with them straight away. But if they don't agree, we have to get in discussion with them and say, okay, we have to make some special arrangements or some other conditions. So that will bring us to the final step. And then we can execute this, and this will add the account data to a table. In Dataverse, we use it as a sync table to our ERP system. So I can't demo that because I don't want to add it in production. But that's the last step, and another step is that's also part of the evaluation roadmap to create an agreement as a document. So one last update here. No. The sync is really slow. To reset the portal, think once in a while you have to do that. So I think I've demoed the complete process. Are there any questions? Or I can continue to the evaluation and our roadmap.
Yeah, we had 2 other questions, I think, in the chat. So just a minute ago when you were approving things, we wanted to confirm you're approving that as yourself with the proper authorization limits, just from like a risk management, internal control process, things like that. When you're approving this, you're approving as yourself, correct? Not the service account.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And then the last question was around kind of the development of this solution. So how many people helped you with building out this solution?
We hired a portal expert. So the portal part we didn't do ourselves, and I did the Power Platform, the Dataverse side. So the data modeling, the automation, and because there was not so much capacity available, it took us a long time to get this live. So that, like I told you, I've done a presentation about the solution on several occasions, but we're still in the development phase at the moment, to the frustration of our supply chain department. So it was like that. So we didn't get any additional capacity. We built it ourselves, but it took us a long time. So that brings us to the evaluation. So in 2019, we're not yet live yet. We went live in September 2020. So almost 18 months ago. And we have a couple of thousands of suppliers invited to the portal. And well, I can show you some statistics. This is our production environment. And if I go to inactive supplier registrations, these are the qualified or disqualified registrations. It's like 1,500 almost registrations. And number of screenings, 1,200. So more registrations than actual screenings. So almost 1,300 suppliers were invited to submit their screening. And you see that these are submitted recently, not only for my demo, but also real suppliers, and some are still waiting. So that's about the statistics. We started with a partner portal template, and you get a lot of extra tables and workflows. And in the end, it's like an overhead. It's a nuisance. So if I could do it over again, I would start with a blank template, or because at that time we also thought, well, we also for a partner in sales, we're going to use a partner portal, and you get a lot of functionality, but the standard functionality didn't fit our process. So we ended up in doing the customizations anyway. So I would have started with an empty template or like a basic template. And then about inviting guest users through Azure AD B2B, it's like that the system, or the Microsoft system, checks whether this email you use in this invitation, if there's an organizational account available. So if the supplier already has his own Azure AD account, then it will be matched to that organizational account. If it doesn't, then it will check whether the email address is also available as a Microsoft account. And if not, then there's a kind of last resort or a safety net. You can get a one-time email code. So I expected that the suppliers should get access in one or the other way, but in practice it didn't turn out to be like that. So some suppliers get stuck, and I think it has to do with the fact that before, and maybe even now, Microsoft creates like an instant Office 365 tenant for it's like a promotion action. So they get an an organizational account, but it's like unmanaged. So they can't reset their email address, their password, because you should get in touch with the admin, but it's an unmanaged tenant. So they got stuck. So we still have to process some documents through email. So that's one of the things on the roadmap we're going to improve. And then since we are creating all these forms that are waiting to be filled out and submitted by the suppliers, we also created notifications. So they get spammed on several occasions. Well, screening forms waiting for you, requirements are waiting for you. And some suppliers say, well, we don't want to get this email anymore. So we were looking at an unsubscribe option. So you can use standard functionality like saying, don't email a contact person, and then the flow will fail if it's sending a template to that email address. But it's like a workaround. So we want to make a proper unsubscribe option. And then contract management, you can offer a lot more through this in this way, because these statements are text, and if you get a bundle of them, you have something like a general purchase condition or declaration of sustainable development with some specific questions. So it's really generic way of offering contracts or agreements. So we want to get more out of that. And multilingual contracts are also something from the roadmap. So our Swedish office is also interested, but then you have to be able to offer it in the Swedish language, Dutch or English. It's not done. And the promise to the suppliers was that we are going to offer a dashboard with kind of benchmarking. So how do you perform compared to your competitors for the same categories or
So Stefan, we are over time, and I know it's very late where you are. Do you have any like closing thoughts you want to end on?
Yeah. So based on the evaluation and some additional requests for functionality, this is on our roadmap. So we're going to. I did lately also a presentation about Power BI Report Builder using as a document generator. So we're going to use that as also part of the Power Platform to generate contracts. So if specific conditions are agreed on, we want to be able to create a document and present it as a PDF and maybe digitally sign it. So we're going to implement a contract generator. Then we're going to use Azure AD B2X self-service sign-up. It's another way of giving access to guest users, but they can decide on their own if they're going to use an organizational account, Microsoft account, or a one-time email code. So you're not depending on the system designing it and then they get stuck. And then we're going to do something about the dashboard. And since we're still using this SQL database, the logic step is to include this full data model from the SQL database and the logic in Dataverse. So we don't have to interact with this SQL on-premise database through Power Automate Flow and have these shared tables in sync. And for requirements, at last point, some certificates or some documents that can be also used to do recognition by AI Builder form processing. So instead of visual processing by a human, you can also use AI Builder for that. So that's also on the roadmap. So if a requirement document is submitted, AI Builder can decide, well, this is a valid document, and it can be approved automatically. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Again, thank you all for everyone who joined us. Stefan, if they want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
I'm on LinkedIn, so you can, Stefan Strube, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can connect with me, and if you have a question.
Great. So everyone, go follow or connect with Stefan. Again, thank you all so much. Again, we have another meetup in a month. And if you didn't get your question answered, please send it to Stefan and he will get back to you with an answer.
Okay. No, thank you very much for having me, and yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Stefan. All right. You all have a good night.
Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.